Good evening and welcome to the Monday, February 2nd, 2026 meeting of the Lake Forest City Council. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Certainly. Honorable Mayor Tack.
Here.
Alderman Nippert.
Here.
Alderman Clemmons.
Here.
Alderman Coate.
Here.
Alderman Powers.
Here.
Alderman Levert.
Here.
Alderman Bothfeld is absent. Alderman Weber.
Here.
Alderman Walder.
Here.
Mr. Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Okie dokie. The first item on the agenda is comments by mayor, and so we'll move on to the manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. Good evening. I have one item under my report tonight, and that is a presentation from our Chief of Police, John Burke. Since construction began in mid to late October on the new police facility at 1925 Field Court, progress has been steady, and with the project nearing the 25% completion milestone, I thought this would be a good opportunity for the chief to update the council and the community on its progress. And moving forward, every 2 months, we'll continue these updates at council meetings until the project's completed. And so with that, I'll turn it over to the chief.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Tack, members of City Council. Tonight I'll give you a brief update on the new police department currently under construction at 1925 Field Court. Construction activity ramped up in late October, early November. A lot of that was bringing materials on site, and it was the start of interior demolition in the building. In December, contractors completed approximately 2,700 labor hours of work. During that time, the crews excavated the areas for the range, evidence garage, sally port, and the elevator pit in the basement of the building. Concrete work followed shortly thereafter, which included the forming and pouring of exterior walls and footings. Inside the building, demo work existed of removing walls, ceilings, and floors of both the first and second floor. When that was completed, crews transitioned into installing and the framing of new walls. This allowed for the start of plumbing, electrical, and HVAC rough-ins on both levels. And during December, despite the weather and the holiday downtime, the project remained on a steady flow. In January, the contractor activity increased to more than 3,400 labor hours, and the foundations for the exterior addition are now nearing completion. The interior construction expanded across both floors with continued progress on framing, plumbing, electrical, fire protection systems, mechanical ductwork, and control systems. Flooring was also cut away for both the elevator shaft and the new staircase, and the masonry work on the elevator shaft was completed in just a few days. So what you're looking at here is the center of the building on the first floor facing the rear of the building. So in the very back would be where the lockup area would be. And these lines you see on the floor, those are outlines for all the different walls for offices and report writing areas. And this will show the transition from demo to where the framing started. Those 2x4s to the right, that's where the elevator shaft is going to come up through the floor. This is on the second floor. That area framed out there is where the stairwell is going to be. To the left over here is where the elevator pit is going to come up, or the elevator shaft. And this is after the demo, and then you're going to see the floor removed to make space for the creation of a new stairwell. Oops. Can't get that one to work. This is the sally port, obviously the exterior of the building. This area was excavated, and where the concrete work starts, this is the only exterior part of the building that is under construction. So this will be for the sally port, firing range, and the evidence garage. This is what it looks like basically right now. This back area, this back corner, this work is still yet to be complete, but we're working on the timing and looking at the weather to see when they're going to get back at that particular area of the building. This is another video. This is the center, second floor. Just shows some of the ductwork and the framing that's going on right now. Every day we go in the building, there's more and more to be seen. Overall, the project is progressing. well, and it's on track. The outdoor concrete work will resume once the weather improves. They don't need it to be above freezing. They just want it to be a little warmer for the concrete to place and hold well. This won't have an impact on any of the overall schedule, though, as far as completion date. The interior plumbing, electrical, masonry, and HVAC work will continue, and we anticipate drywall work starting on February 9th inside the building. I would encourage everyone to follow our progress by watching the videos. Updates created by Deputy Chief Kevin Zelk. He's doing a great job. And these can be located on the city's website, and I appreciate the City Council's support, and we'll continue to provide these updates every 2 months. Any questions?
The chief. Hearing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
That concludes my report. Thank you.
Excellent. All right, the next item on the agenda is opportunity for citizens to address the council on non-agenda items. Is there anybody present who would like to address the council? Okay. Seeing and hearing none, we move on to item 4, which is committee reports. We will start with a report from the Audit Committee. Approval of an Audit Committee recommendation to award a contract with Baker Tilly US LLP to provide audit services for fiscal years 2026 through 2028 with an option to renew the agreement for 2 additional years, presented by Finance Chairman Alderman Weber.
Thank you so much, Mayor, for the introduction. I will go ahead and actually just turn it over to Director Skibby to share their process, but it was an engaging process, and I was happy to be a part of it.
Thank you. The city's fiscal year 25 audit was the 5th year of a 5-year contract with Baker Tilly. We issued a request for a proposal in the fall and received 3 responses from audit firms. Finance staff completed a thorough review of all proposals, and at the January 15th Audit Committee meeting, the Audit Committee, along with Finance Chair Weber, interviewed the 2 finalists for the RFP. Based on all of the information received, the Audit Committee unanimously recommended that the City Council consider reappointing Baker Tilly as the city's audit firm. This would be the 3rd renewal with Baker Tilly, and the Audit Committee did discuss changing audit managers as part of due diligence, though we will be continuing with the same audit partner. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions for Director Skibby? Okay, thank you very much. That being said, at this time, I'd like to ask for a motion to approve an Audit Committee recommendation to award a contract with Baker Tilly US LLP to provide audit services for fiscal years 2026 through 2028 with an option to renew the agreement for 2 additional years. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
This is a roll call vote.
Alderman Weber,
Aye.
Alderman Walther,
Aye.
Alderman Novit,
Aye.
Alderman Clemmons,
Aye.
Alderman Rhodes,
Aye.
Alderman Powers,
Aye.
Alderman Levert.
Aye.
7 yea, 0 nay, motion carries.
Alrighty, the next item on the agenda is old business. We will be considering an ordinance to amend Chapter 78 of the City Code, parking. Oh, I missed it. Sorry, turned 2 pages.
I like the efficiency.
All right. Forget that. Items for omnibus vote consideration is the next agenda item. This time I'm going to read each item for omnibus vote consideration. At any time, if the alderman would like something removed or taken separately, please take note. And when I'm finished reading all the items, please let me know. All right, there are 6 items this evening. Item 1 is approval of the check register for the period of December 27th through January 23rd, 2026. Item 2 is consideration of a request to waive the fidelity bond requirement in connection with holding the raffles in the city of Lake Forest for Allendale Women's Board. Approval by motion. Item 3, approval of a recommendation from the Public Works Committee to award proposal to Lakeland Larson Elevator for the water plant elevator replacement project in the amount of $401,330 to include a 10% contingency in the amount of $41,000 for a total cost of $442,330. Item 4, consideration of action items relating to the Waukegan and Wesley intersection project number 1, approval of a construction contingency in the amount of $148,479 for invoices to the State of Illinois Department of Transportation, and approval of a construction contingency in the amount of $148,478 to DeLand Construction LLC. Item 5, consideration of ordinances approving recommendations from the Building Review Board for 855 Fox Trail Court and 1206 Estate Lane, first reading and if desired by the City Council, final approval. And finally, item 6, consideration of ordinances approving recommendations from the Plan Commission in support of special use permits to authorize a real estate office, Remax Premier Luxury Collection at 280 East Deer Path, and to authorize a dental clinic, Ross and Durrett Family Dental at 580 Bank Lane. Desired by the council, waive first reading and grant final approval of the ordinances. Are there any items that the alderman would like removed or taken separately? All right, hearing none, can I have a motion to approve the omnibus items as presented?
So moved. Second.
Be a roll call vote.
Alderman Walther?
Aye.
Alderman Novit? Aye. Alderman Clemmons?
Aye.
Alderman Notes?
Aye.
Alderman Powers?
Aye.
Alderman Levert?
Aye.
Alderman Weber?
Aye.
7 yea, 0 nay, motion carries.
Now we are moving to old business. We will be considering an ordinance to amend Chapter 78 of the City Code, Parking and Loading Schedules, first reading, to modify parking regulations in the Central Business District and implement new technology solutions for permit management and parking enforcement. At this time, I'd like to introduce Carrie Kaup, Assistant to the City Manager.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Tonight, we are very pleased to be able to share our final recommendations to modify parking regulations in the Central Business District and to implement new technology in support of this program. So in August 2025, we formed a committee to review the current regulations and formulate our new recommendations. Throughout fall and winter, we conducted surveys and hosted community conversations to ensure we receive both resident and business feedback during our process. Our draft plan was presented to Council in December, and tonight we're asking for your approval for several recommendations to continue moving the process forward. Throughout our evaluation process, staff remained committed to 3 goals. Number 1, to simplify the parking zones and signage. Number 2, to ensure that the parking zones that are closest to shopping and dining are the customer zones, and that we also designate employee parking zones. And third, to improve our permit management and parking enforcement capabilities through technology. Within this framework, our proposed recommendations are intended to create a system that supports businesses, improves customer access, and can be enforced consistently. And while we know that we can't give everyone everything they want, we do want to be cognizant of giving everyone something that's useful. So to recap our December 1st presentation, the committee made several recommendations for modifying parking in the CBD, including streamlining time zones, eliminating unenforceable signage, and moving customer parking closer to shopping and dining. We recommended moving employee parking to our perimeter lots and investing in new technology for both permit management and enforcement systems. To remind the council of the proposed parking zones, the map on the screen shows all the zones throughout the CBD, and this is the same as the paper map in front of you. But I will go through the map in sections so it's a little bit easier to see. So starting on the north side of the CBD, all street parking throughout is recommended to be 90 minutes unless otherwise indicated as a 30-minute zone. It should be noted that Market Square will now also be a 90-minute zone rather than a 2-hour zone as it currently is signed. Our recommended 30-minute zones are identified in purple, and on the north side, you can see we have 30-minute parking in the Corda lot, listed as number 10 on your map, the Forest Avenue lot, listed as number 8, and on Northgate in front of the post office. We have 3-hour customer parking available in the Forest Avenue lot and Corda lot. And we have employee parking available in the Scott Street lot, number 1, Westminster lot, number 2, and Corda lot, number 10. CBD permit parking, not available for employees, is available in the North Train Depot lot, number 3, and South Train Depot Lot, number 4. CBD permit holders can also park in any zone that's designated as an employee lot. Overnight parking is available in the Westminster lot, shown in red, and this is available to employees and CBD permit holders during daytime hours as well. Moving to the south side of the CBD, I want to first call your attention to some updates you'll see on this map that are different than what were originally in your packet. The call out on the Upper Gorton lot, number 6, said no employee parking in your packet, but that was updated now to correctly reflect that employee parking is in fact available in that lot. Secondly, we mistakenly had a 30-minute on-street designated zone in front of City Hall. That's been removed because those are handicap accessible spaces. Moving into the rest of your map, we have 30-minute parking primarily located on the west side of Western Avenue between Market Square and Deer Path, on the north side of Deer Path between Western and Bank, and a portion of Bank Lane north of Deer Path. Based on the council feedback we received at the December meeting, we've also added a 30-minute zone on Western south of Deer Path to accommodate those quick stop businesses as well. 3-hour parking is available in the City Hall lot, number 7, Bank Lane parking deck, number 11, and employee parking is in the Oakwood lot, which is number 9, Bank Lane parking deck, number 11, North Shore lot, number 5, and Upper Gorton lot, number 6. Moving away from the zones to technology, staff is recommending a permit management system called ParkLink. ParkLink integrates with our pay stations, our mobile app, and with the enforcement technology that we're proposing. It requires permit holders to enter their license plate information when they're purchasing a permit, and there would no longer be physical hang tags. The city can also set up business accounts, so businesses can purchase and manage their own permits. They have the option to purchase monthly or annual permits, so they can be issued to individuals. And alternatively, businesses that share permits in situations of seasonal or part-time employees can do so through the system. When an employee is issued a permit and parks for their shift, they can log into the system and register their plate to the permit, and their plate will remain connected to that permit until a different employee overrides and enters their own plate. For the enforcement side, we are recommending purchasing the Genetec automated license plate reader system through Minuteman. This system integrates with the proposed permit management system and payment system, and information is automatically sent between all 3, so officers have the most current information when they're on patrol. It's capable of both time zone enforcement and permit enforcement, and it is also capable of connecting with Flock. So staff will work with Minuteman and Genetec to explore that connection during our setup process. The proposed permit management and license plate reader systems would be new ongoing expenses for the city. ParkLink permit management would cost $4,776 annually. They have agreed to waive initial setup fees, so there is no additional cost in the first year. The Genetec parking enforcement system will cost $48,712 in the first year, which includes the hardware, software, setup, installation, and training. Annual ongoing maintenance would be $6,267. So the total investment of the new technology we're proposing is $53,488 in the first year and just over $11,000 moving forward. As a reminder for council, the chart on the top of the screen shows the current permit rates for residents, non-residents, and employees. On an annual basis, permits sold at these rates generate the revenue shown in the bottom chart, and specifically related to our businesses, the city collects approximately $136,000 annually from the sale. Given the fact that our permits for businesses are already discounted more than the resident rate, and that permits can continue to be purchased in the same manner as they are today, in that there is a sharing option for seasonal and part-time employees, staff is not recommending reducing the permit cost any further. However, if the council does desire to reduce that rate, we recommend not reducing by more than 25%. We recognize that our additional expenses for our technology can be offset by the revenue generated from the sale of our permits. Finally, the last consideration tonight is regarding valet licensing. The city does not currently have any regulations related to valet companies, and we often receive complaints that the valets are operating in an unsafe manner, such as not wearing their reflective vests or making U-turns in the middle of the street. We also have received complaints that the valets are taking up the spaces closest to the businesses themselves. And without any regulations in place, the city doesn't have a mechanism to meaningfully address these complaints. So we reviewed the valet regulations from other municipalities, and we also reached out to the 4 businesses who utilize valets on a regular basis. Based on the information we gathered, we're recommending moving toward a valet licensing process, not to establish something that's overly burdensome or expensive, but primarily we would be seeking submission of a parking plan by the valet operator that can be approved by the city. We'd be looking for submission of any private property agreements that might be in place, and an agreement to follow all the traffic rules and regulations. We're recommending the establishment of this with an acknowledgement that the status quo is not working, and we would like to be able to address violations in a more meaningful way. And so once our parking zones and software are approved, staff would begin a significant communications campaign to notify residents and CBD permit holders of the changes that we expect to go into effect in May of 2026. We would also work with our GIS analysts to build an interactive parking map available on our website so people can see exactly where they can park. And we would also review our signage in the CBD to determine what needs to be removed or replaced. Finally, we would continue our conversations with businesses who operate valets and outline a potential license for future consideration by the council. Our goal is to continue to evaluate these recommendations in the 3, 6, and 12 months after implementation, and we would respectfully request the opportunity to come back to you with updated recommendations if there are any problems that need to be addressed again. And so with that, we are looking for several actions by the City Council tonight, which will frame our work for the next several months with the target implementation of May 2026. And so with that, I would be happy to take any questions or comments you have.
I'll start with a question. So when somebody registers that they're in a parking space for a certain period of time, how is it that we know that they've left the space or that they've stayed in the space beyond its period of time?
Sure.
Require us to actively pass by and read the license plate, or does the system notify us that, hey, there's a guy over there who hasn't left his space?
No, so it's the former. The officer would drive by, let's say they drive down the block the first time, and the zone is 90 minutes. After that 90-minute period, they would drive by again and notify them of any vehicle that's still there.
So then my question about that is are we actually going to have people driving by these locations every 90 minutes so that this is actually being enforced? Or, I mean, I don't believe we currently do that. Maybe that's a question for Chief.
We don't currently, but the goal would be to do that. That's why we are putting the equipment into CSO vehicles. We want to make sure that we have the opportunity to have as many CSOs as we can participating in enforcement activities. But I'll let the chief speak further if you have more to add than that.
Yeah. Each vehicle will be equipped with 2 LPRs attached either to the hood or at the top of the A-pillar in a certain angle. So as it drives through lots, just scanning plates. It's not that labor intensive for them other than driving a regular pattern or an irregular pattern at certain times of the day. And then we have 2 shifts of community service officers that can do that. And then the officers at night still have the ability to run a plate, check it through Park Mobile. So if it isn't in fact an overnight park or there's 3 cars there at 3 in the morning, it'll show that they've paid to park there for the weekend or overnight.
Very good. And will that system pick up the passes distributed to aldermen and other elected public?
I'm sure we can figure that out.
Thank you. Alderman Clemmons.
Well, I wanted to ask about the 30-minute zone around you know, the main downtown.
Sure.
So you would have to be scanning that every 30 minutes.
Yes, which is why we moved away from 15-minute zones
Right.
in consideration of the feasibility of getting around the business district every 15 minutes. That wasn't feasible, which is why we made all quick stop parking 30 minutes. That did seem more feasible for our officers to be able to do.
So would you give warning tickets initially and then,
Yes, our expectation is that the beginning of this process would be education and warnings, not issuing citations right away. We do want to give people ample time to understand the new regulations. We know these are big changes, and so we would take a significant period of time to issue warnings.
you get a lot of action in front of Starbucks?
Okay.
Hi, Carrie, thank you. Couple questions. The 30-minute parking highlighted on the map, like on Deer Path, it shows, I believe, one side of the street, but not the south side. Is that true? And also on Westminster in Illinois, not Illinois, it's Wisconsin, I think, by Hometown. Any thoughts to additional 30-minute parking in those areas, or are those actually covered and I just don't understand it?
No, so to take your first question, yes, the 30-minute parking is on one side of the street. So it's on the west side of Western and it's on the north side of Deer Path. And then to your question about near Hometown, we do have the 30-minute spaces available in the Corda lot, which is right across the street from Hometown.
So how long can you park if it's not 30 minutes?
So
Defaults to 90 again?
the street is 90 minutes. The rest of the Corda lot where there's free parking is 3 hours for
Right,
customers.
okay, but 90 on the street.
Yes, correct.
And then the green line for city daily fare employee parking at the very south end where it says 10 spaces,
Yes,
is that the street parking?
that is street parking on the east side of Western.
On the east side of Western, okay. And then what about nights, weekends, and holidays? How will those be handled?
So as of right now in the CBD, we have our 90-minute zones are enforceable from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. We anticipate maintaining that, but moving the back end out to 6:30 p.m. So it's still 90-minute for a majority of the day, but then as people are going to dinner and spending a little bit more time at restaurants, we've opened that up for longer than 90 minutes.
Thank you.
Other comment? Alderman Walter.
Thank you, Mayor. So Carrie, just to follow up on that question, if we're going to allow stays longer than 90 minutes after 6:30 p.m., wouldn't we want to include that 6 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. timeframe within the ordinance itself?
Yes, we could add that into the ordinance as well. We can take a look at the language and see how to craft that, but yes, we can add that.
I think that would be a recommended addition so that our enforcement personnel have a document to which they could then write tickets. Couple things, if I could follow up, Mayor.
Okay.
I took a walk around the Central Business District this afternoon before the meeting, and a couple things I noticed. One was the 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. There's a lot of signage right now around town, so that'll all have to be changed to 6:30.
Correct.
Also, in lot number 3 by the train station, there's about 4 or 5 30-minute parking stalls, presumably for people who are dropping off passengers at the train and then want to exit the car and kiss their bride goodbye or their husband goodbye when they get on the train or so forth, or wait for a child to get off the train. Could we potentially consider keeping several 30-minute spots at the train station for those types of activities?
So there were 30-minute spots there. There are now, and we removed them, thinking that we have all of the 30-minute parking in that area of Market Square, and you're still able to drop off and pick up in the train station. And so we made the decision to make it all the same. consistent throughout.
So just as an individual on the council, I would disagree that we should continue to keep several 30-minute spots in the train station parking lot to allow people to move away from their cars to pick up passengers, help them carry luggage, or whatever they need to do when the people get off the train.
Yeah, and I would just jump in to say, if that's a prerogative of the council and there's consensus, we can certainly, upon coming back to the council for second reading, leave the existing 30-minute spaces where they exist in that lot.
Is there anyone else who has strong feelings? Others? General? Alderman Powers?
Carrie, on the time frame, can you go over that one more time? So it starts at 6 a.m.?
For the street parking, 90.
Correct.
So it's 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. currently.
So I'm in town a lot at 6 a.m. We don't have a parking problem at 6 a.m. What was the thought of starting it so early as opposed to 7?
I don't know that there is a strong feeling one way or the other on that. We don't have overnight parking on the street between 3 and 5. And so we could either go consistent with that and be 5 a.m. But if you can't park on the street until 5 and then the zone starts to be 90 minutes at 6:30, which we're proposing 6:30 to 6:30, we're already falling into that 90-minute zone right away. So I think it was just a matter of less confusion to not push it back to 7 or 8 a.m.
Okay, and then from a 6:30 cutoff, if I park there at 5:30, I can park there as long as I want.
Correct.
Okay,
Yes.
makes sense. Thank you.
I have a follow-up based upon this recent conversation about signs and times. Why change 6 to 6 to 6:30 to 6:30 when we already have the signs? Is there really a difference? Will a 30-minute make a difference on either end of the day?
Sure. We could certainly keep it at 6 p.m. Our thought on the committee was that in trying to ensure that employees are not taking up the street parking, if employees who work in restaurants are coming in for a shift at 4:30, if we ended it at 6, that 90 minutes gets them to 6 and then beyond. Whereas somebody who's coming in for an evening shift at a restaurant by 5 p.m., they probably are already there and already working. So we were trying to eliminate the incentive for employees to just take up that spot on the street.
Thank you.
Others? Alderman Weber?
Thank you, Carrie, for the thorough presentation. We've spoken several times offline and about this, and so I just wanted to say thank you for taking time to work through it. As someone who's intimately and has been for my career in town, intimately involved in parking and seeing employees parking and seeing the things that they do and wanting to have those spots available for customers, I think is really important. So overall, I agree with this plan. I think only time will tell. Hopefully, more employees will take advantage of the permits so that you can receive more data to see how the long-term strategy of employee parking and do we have enough spots for employees. I think that will play out over time. So I'm really pleased to hear that. And from a recent conversation with City Manager Wisha, wanted to just mention that there were, I think, approximately 5 parking spots that have PACE. I believe they're like rental vehicles in the South Train Station lot. And so perhaps looking to move those to parking lot number 6 might make more sense for vehicles that aren't used on a regular basis, opening up a couple more spots in lot 5. Since the bus lanes and bus holding areas took out a number of spots a few years ago when that parking lot was restructured.
And that is certainly something we can consider. We are aware that lot number 5 is smaller than lot number 6, and so we can certainly work with the van shuttle company to relocate them to lot number 6.
Thank you.
Alderman Notes?
Thank you, Carrie. I'm excited about the promise that this has to make parking clearer and easier for everybody. A point of clarification, if somebody is parking in lot 5, the system will prevent them from moving their car 3 spaces,
Correct.
be pinged again. I want to be clear, like, could they move it from 5 to 6 and be fine?
Yes.
Okay.
So we can set up the zones as we see fit. The committee envisioned that when we set up a parking lot zone, the whole lot is considered one zone.
Okay, thank you.
Other comments, questions? Alderman Novit.
Just quickly, in Lot 1, there is now a designated space for high school parking. Is that going to be maintained?
So our goal was to maintain up north, so our high school students with CBD permits can still park up there. But I do want to note that employees also are able to park in the area up there. Again, we anticipate that many of the employees who will be parking up there would be associated with the restaurants that don't open as early as the high schoolers would get there, so we would have that flow.
And then have to hike over to the other side of the tracks. My comment had to do with 5 and 6 again, with the PACE vehicles. If you move them to 6, there are functions at the Gorton. A lot of them are at night, but some are during the day as well. They're quite popular, and that lot 6 will fill up.
So
you're taking 5 spots.
Yeah, and we do work with both the library and the Gorton Center. When they have events, they call us, they let us know, and we're able to relax our parking enforcement in the area, knowing that we have a lot of visitors. So certainly something we're having conversations with them.
Other comments or questions? Alderman Weber.
And just kind of in follow-up to the zones, looking at the 30-minute zones on Western, Deer Path, Bank, that corridor there, I'm just curious if individuals will pop in perhaps on the north side, say trying to run into Market Square or Gerhard's or somewhere up there, and then heading down south, maybe they need another sweet fix at Dunkin', and pick up another spot. So I think education will be key, and I look to both the police's input as to what makes sense on when you actually set those zones for those 30-minute, that if people are, perhaps popping around a little bit, if people with young children who, trying not to, although getting them in and out of the car is the hardest part. But anyway, I just wanted to comment that I'm thinking, people might kind of make their way move down the street.
Sure, and I think that will be part of our look ahead as we implement things, as we go 3, 6, 12 months. Where are we seeing issues? I think we would anticipate that we would initially set the block for those types as a full block. If we find that that needs to extend out further based on people's behaviors, we can certainly assess that.
Hi, back to Wisconsin, I think is the street with Hometown on it. That is one of the establishments in town where people pre-order and need to run in and pick it up. It's usually ready by the time they get there. So it hasn't been working well because people who go in and stay take those spots currently. Is there any remedy for people who, otherwise they're going to start double parking behind the people who have now the 90-minute spots in front of it? Is there any remedy for an establishment like that where they do a heavy takeout each day?
Yeah, I think our goal was to put that 30-minute parking on the edge of the Corda lot, knowing that it's close to that business that has to come in and out. But also looking at the CBD holistically rather than business by business, trying to establish reasonable zones in all areas of the CBD. And then the second piece of that is the enforcement piece. Right now, we haven't had any type of meaningful enforcement for a number of years, and as that piece comes back into play, I think that will help us rectify some of the issues we're having, like the double parking or the staying over time. And so again, it's one of those things that we need to put something down and start to look at what needs to be adjusted. But we really won't have meaningful data until we get something into place and can start actually evaluating what's happening.
Alderman Novit?
How many spaces are in that 30-minute area in the quarter lot?
So the picture is a little bit of a misnomer because they just had to kind of show the spot there. But we would just consider the most perimeter spots, you know, so potentially 6 to 10 spots.
So right now in front of there's 4. So it would kind of provide that opportunity for people to run in and out quickly in this lot, even though it's all the way across the street instead of right in front of the door.
Well, and I would note that we're not taking anything away from them.
Exactly.
They actually don't have those spots. That was something they did themselves.
Right, I
So,
agree.
Yeah.
And just to reiterate too, there are, Carrie, there's other spots around town that have also been, these, in general, the concept of that 15-minute pickup has been eliminated to work with these zones. So it's not just one business, that there are multiple areas around town that's being revised.
Yes.
Right, and so I have a question for you. So your map is very nicely color-coded. I know exactly how long I can park in any of these places. So are either our signs or the asphalt markings going to be color-coded according to how long you can stay there?
Unfortunately, we weren't looking to color code any of the asphalt paint or the signs, but the map will always be color coded. So if you go on the interactive map online, it will be color coded.
The only problem I have with that is I don't often go on the internet while I'm driving looking for a parking space. So, you know, and trying to avoid sign pollution where we have signs everywhere. I'm just looking for some easily identifiable way of saying, hey, here's a lot where I can park for 90 minutes, here's a space where I can park. And like I said, on your map, the color coding works very nicely. So maybe just something we can give some thought to going forward. I don't think it fits into any of these actions we're being asked to address this evening, but just a thought. I know the color, you know, if it's not green, it's not good, so we do have that issue. Any other comments or questions? Oh, a couple other things I wanted to bring up. This is for you. Is it important to have the hours in the actual action here, or can, I mean, the action remain nebulous, the hours, but the hours be posted?
So we would recommend as much as we can having the hours be in the ordinance itself. If there's some areas where we need flexibility, we can include in the ordinance that designates some discretion to the city manager to either set those hours or vary those hours as needed.
Okay, so that's one area where maybe when we come back with second reading, we have that there. And then coming back, we're talking about, and I need the council to sort of give me a general sense of whether they want to do this, keep the 4 30-minute spaces at the East Train Station present, because currently with what we're doing, those would be eliminated.
As currently proposed, yes, unless we hear otherwise from
Well,
council.
that's what I'm trying to get us.
Correct.
We want them to come back with a map retaining those before we make a final vote on this. Just
I think-
general consensus.
Okay,
Yes.
I don't know what the current capacity of the East Train Station is now with so many people working remote and split shifts and all that other stuff. Those lots used to always be full with daily parkers. And I think it's important that we accommodate the people that take the train and give them whatever parking spaces we can. I think the 30-minute spots are great where you're close to something you're going to run into. If you're in the train station parking lot, you have to cross the tracks to get to something where you would run in for 5 minutes. I think people, as someone who drops her husband off at the train periodically, I don't get out of the car. I drop him off. I kick them out. It's just not, it's not necessary to me to have a place to leave the car for, I don't think anybody's going to give me a ticket because I'm dropping them off.
Or you're waiting in your car.
Yes, exactly.
If I can speak to that too, I do think that is an area where our officers have that discretion, where they see somebody dropping someone off, they're not going to issue a ticket to somebody standing next to their car unloading or things like that. So, you know, just as a consideration, I do think our officers are mindful of those types of situations as well.
Well, I've spoken on it and I asked for it, so I continue to agree that they stay.
And because there are people that'll have to park and get out of the car, go to the platform and wait for a specific person, you know, be it a child or whatever.
Are there strong views against that or no?
Well, I'm just going to say that because other areas have been eliminated, and from what I understand, after kind of exhaustively speaking with Carrie about this entire parking map, is that the intention was to working with our CSOs and how they're going to be monitoring in a way that allows them to cruise through this pattern and actually monitor the 30-minute spots. And if we start to add other areas that need 30-minute spots, then I think we can start advocating for a lot of other areas that might need 30-minute spots. So I think my outlook at this is, let's try this plan. And if we start to see or hear complaints of people not being able to do that, then it's certainly up to the council to, you know, revisit this map and redesignate spots.
Alderman Powers.
My comment on that issue is it's only applicable in the morning, right? Because those spots, the train's coming on the other side of the track in the evening, so we don't have 30-minute parking on the other side. So, you know, to Alderman Novitz's point, drive through, drop your husband off, and go. I just don't see the need to sit there for 30 minutes, just half the trip. So I'm just looking for consistency.
All right, so let's do this then. Let's leave it as it is. We can always come back to this after 3 months when we've sort of experienced it and decide whether or not there are some modifications that we need to make. So before we vote on this, there's 5 components to this that we have, and so what I would like the council to, what I'd like to do is present these as an omnibus unless there's opposition to that, so we don't have to vote on them individually. Is there anybody who has a strong opposition to voting on this as an omnibus? Hearing none, we will vote on it as an omnibus. So I'll read the council actions here. Number 1, approve the zones depicted in the map provided titled Central Business District Parking Zones and grant first reading of the ordinance amending Chapter 78 of the City Code related to parking and loading schedules. Item 2, authorize the city manager to execute an agreement with Minuteman Security and Life Safety in the amount of $48,712.78 for year 1 and plus $6,267.10 for ongoing annual maintenance for a total of $54,979.88 for parking enforcement software. Can I suggest we round in the future? Item 3, authorize the city manager to execute an agreement with ParkLink in the amount of $4,776 for permit management software. Item 4, approve the recommendation to maintain the current CBD parking permit cost for businesses, residents, and non-residents. And 5, approve a recommendation to establish a valet regulation and direct staff to begin drafting an ordinance for future city council consideration. And we will be including the language, the hours of the restrictions in the ordinance on second reading. May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All right, and this will be a roll call vote. And Carrie, thank you very much.
Alderman Novit.
Aye.
Alderman Clemmons.
Aye.
Alderman Notes.
Aye.
Powers.
Aye.
Alderman Levert.
Aye.
Alderman Weber.
Aye.
Alderman Walter.
Aye.
7 yea, 0 nay, motion carries.
Very good. The next item on the agenda is consideration of an ordinance approving a fee schedule adjusting water rates for fiscal year 2027. First reading, this will be presented by Katie Skibby, Finance Director.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor Tack. Staff is bringing forth a proposal to increase water rates for fiscal year 27 to cover increases in operating cost as well as additional capital that was proposed during the November capital budget workshop. This would be the first step in a multi-year process to review all water fund assets, update the replacement schedule, and ensure water rates support long-term capital planning. As you all know, the water fund is an enterprise fund and it therefore is not supported by property taxes. Operating expenses generated by treating and delivering water, along with long-term capital expenses, must be covered by water rates. This structure promotes transparency and financial accountability because rates are directly related to the true cost of service. Water usage can vary quite a bit from year to year. We have a hot, dry summer and we pump a lot more water than other years, and that leads to fluctuation in revenue of up to about $1 million. So the water fund also carries a healthy reserve for those reasons. The overall financial health of the water fund depends on appropriate rate setting, customer usage, and long-term infrastructure planning. Every dollar billed to customers covers operations, maintenance, debt service, and capital. As you can see here, the majority of funds go towards operation and maintenance, but the city dedicates a significant portion of revenue to capital and debt service, so about 46% in fiscal year 26. The capital dollars go to maintain an entire system of water fund assets, and I will turn it over to Director Thomas to speak more on the water system.
Great. Thank you. Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council. I'm going to review, and this is probably the most important slide that I'm going to review, showing the water system assets. As Katie noted, the water fund pays for all water fund assets, whether they're water main or sanitary sewer related. Absolutely no property tax goes towards them. Water mains, we have 166 miles, of which 150 miles are distribution, the mains that go up and down the road. Transmission mains are about 20 miles. Primarily for us to get the water out west are the transmission mains. Sanitary sewers, we've got 140 miles of sanitary sewers. We obviously all know we've got our water plant from 1921. That's still kicking. Lift stations, we have 5 sanitary sewer lift stations. All sanitary sewer is drained by gravity, so we've got certain areas in town where we've got to pump that sanitary sewage up to get it to flow by gravity, so 5 lift stations. Booster station across from West Campus at Waukegan and Wesley, it's got a 1.4 million gallon reservoir underneath. Our water tower out at the compost center, 1.5 million gallons of water in the air. And then our water and sewer section has got 19 pieces of capital equipment they work with. For water main size and material, we drew a line between the 12 and 14 inch to delineate. The 12 inch and lower are for distribution mains, are 14 and higher are for transmission mains. Diagram on the right shows that we've got everything in GIS, so we can click on our GIS system and it'll tell us the pipe material, the date it was installed, the size, etc. Below that shows a chart that shows when the pipe basically was the type of material. So cast iron was prevalent through 1960. Then we went into ductile iron through about 2007. Ductile iron is still available. We just switched to PVC in about 2007 because we were doing more directional boring rather than open cut. But the interesting thing, in the late 80s and early 90s, the ductile iron that was coming out of the plants was not good. And we're seeing those issues now primarily in the Fourth Ward with those streets that I've listed there. A lot of our main breaks are right in that area, and it's because of bad pipe. Water main construction in feet, this is simply a chart that we put together from the early 1900s of when you can see how much water main we put in. And again, I bring your eyes to the late 80s, early 90s out in the Fourth Ward, where we did put in a lot of the ductile iron pipe, and we're beginning to see some issues with it, premature issues. Again, we have 166 miles of water main. The average age is 53 years old. When we look at American Public Works Association or American Water Works Association, they recommend pipe replacement between 75 and 100 years. I'll tell you one of our oldest pieces of pipe is down Woodland from McKinley. It's from 1922. Have no problems with it. So it's interesting. A lot of it does come down to the soils, and it comes down to the pipe material. We historically replace about 1,500 feet of pipe a year, but not a lot. But again, and I go back to that statement because we're balancing everything else that we have responsibilities for. It's not just the pipes, it's the plant, it's the booster station, it's the sanitary sewers. It's all comes out of the same pocket. This is a 5-year history of our water main breaks. And again, just like snowstorms, the main breaks don't happen Monday through Friday, 6:30 a.m. to 3 p.m. So the guys are there overnight. They're there on the weekend. This shows that we're spending halfway decent amount of money in overtime with a good number of breaks annually. Our most recent one was over on Lakewood, right off of Everett. The guys started at 5:30 in the afternoon. They got done at 3 in the morning. So it takes time to locate these and fix them. So why the additional investment? And this is simply us beginning the conversation for much more long-term. This is not a jump up and down. We've got to raise rates, huge percentage. This is us simply saying, we know, we recognize we've got an aging infrastructure. The material costs, Katie will have a chart soon that's going to show both our capital and our operating costs and just how significant those have gone up over the past 10 years. Water sales, Katie noted, absolutely during a hot summer we'll sell more, but traditionally we're typically between 1.1 and 1.2 billion gallons of water. When you sell that amount of water and your capital budget has been relatively flat, yet your expenses are going up and your infrastructure is getting older, hence the challenge. And that's what we wanted to bring to you this evening. We obviously want to be proactive versus reactive as we look at all these assets. And as we said, now is the time for us to really just start planning for the next 20 to 30 years. How do we go about addressing, replacing these capital assets? So the immediate purpose for the recommended rate increase is for some of the studies and some of the operational costs we have coming at us in FY27. We've got a transmission main study that we're going to be performing in FY27 that we've spoken to about looking at some of the transmission mains where we had issues. We're also going to be doing an evaluation on our booster station over on Waukegan and Wesley to include the 14-inch transmission main that runs from Ridge to Waukegan. That's study number 2. We'll bring forth in FY28 a request to do a study on our distribution mains. But the third part of that, and Katie will explain it more for the rate increase, is some of the operational increases that we have down at the water plant, electricity, chemicals, overtime in water sewer, repair clamps. Everything is costing a lot more money. So that is the basis for the discussion that we wanted to start with you this evening, and I'll bring it back to Katie to talk about the financial side.
Thank you. All right, the Water and Sewer Fund has seen some large increases in operating costs in the past 5 years. Most notably, the chemicals used to treat water have doubled in price. At that same time, utilities have increased by 22%, and salaries and benefits have increased by another 14.5%. These are just a few of the operating expense categories, but is a general trend of what we are seeing. Additionally, capital and operating capital costs have been increasing quite a bit as well. As you can see from this list, the cost of water main installation has gone up 47% in the past 5 years, 182% in the past 10 years. During that same time period, lift station pump control panels have doubled in cost, and fire hydrants have increased 76% in cost. This is not an exhaustive list, obviously, but just highlights some of the ways that we're seeing increased pressure on expenses. As I mentioned previously, the city invests 46% of revenue in capital and debt service. And this chart shows that the city's debt service constrains the capital contributions. For the past several years, more money has gone towards debt service than has towards capital. And in FY25, some of the debt service was paid off. That was debt service for improvements at the water treatment plant. And so additional funds are now available for capital. These funds are currently scheduled to do several water projects, including the water meter replacement project. The previous 2 debt issuances, so the one that is still outstanding and the one previous, were for water plant improvements, and the current debt issuance will be paid off in 2038. So here is a graph with our water and sewer sales. So 75% of water revenue is tied to consumption, while 25% is fixed. The dark blue segment at the bottom of the screen there is the fixed water meter charge. And as you can see, it increases slightly over the last few years as the city has increased meter charges by 2.5% a year for the past 5 years. The orange segment is by far the largest segment. That's where the majority of our revenue comes from for consumption-based services. This is where the variation in consumption directly affects revenue. And you can see the light blue line is the water consumption in thousands of gallons. And the orange segment increases and decreases as that light blue line goes up and down. Overall, revenue from water and sewer sales has been increasing slightly, though at a slower rate than expenses. So the water rate structure, as I said, has both fixed rates that remain the same each bill and variable rates which vary based on consumption. The city has a tiered rate structure with low users paying a lower rate than higher users. And since water usage can vary so much from year to year, we use a 5-year rolling average to set water rates and generate revenue estimates. And then up in the upper right-hand corner, as Director Thomas mentioned, consumption can vary quite a bit, but on average, we deliver about 1 billion gallons of water each year. So after the water main break in the fall, staff brought forward 2 recommended capital projects to help build data points to the sustainability of our water system. These projects were discussed by Director Thomas, but also we are also looking at preliminary estimates for what the fiscal year 27 operating budget increases look like, and that is $242,361. Together, the additional capital and the increase in operating expenses result in an additional $617,000 a year. So the proposal before you this evening is an increase of 6.75% to both variable and consumption-based rates for water and sewer. This increase generates an additional $620,000, which covers both the additional capital projects and the increase in operating expenses. a lower rate increase would necessitate scaling back on some of those capital projects. And just for your reference, each 1% of a rate increase generates about $90,000. This slide illustrates how much additional revenue is generated from each rate. It is a little of a busy slide, so I'd like to start by pointing out up in the upper left-hand corner, you can see that the majority of our water is billed at the second tier rate, at the $6.20 rate. That's 51% of our water is billed at that rate. The highest tier of the $7 represents a relatively small amount of users, and increases to the higher rates correspond with a generally small amount of additionally generated revenue. The all other category on this chart includes outside city water sales, commercial, schools and churches, irrigation, and multifamily. And then as you move down the slide, looking at the fixed charges, you'll once again see that the majority of our users, 95%, have small water meters. So while medium and large water meters are a bigger charge, the majority of users have a small water meter. And so increases to the medium and large water meters don't generate as much revenue. And then the total additional revenue that is estimated is $617,000. Okay. Now moving on to how this affects our customers. This slide shows estimated impact to users. A low usage customer, so someone who uses approximately 10,000 gallons a quarter, will see an increase of $35 over the year. Obviously, usage is not the same every quarter, but on average, that would be their bill. A medium user uses significantly more water and represents a household who uses approximately 50,000 gallons a quarter or 200,000 gallons a year. And this user would see an increase of $110 over the year. Lastly, the high usage customer who uses 136,000 gallons a quarter or 544,000 gallons a year will see an increase of $349. Also included in this slide for your information is the increase in fixed charges versus the consumption charges. Both the low and medium user is assumed to have a small meter, and then the high user is assumed to have a medium-sized meter. So this increase is not a one-year solution or a final answer. It allows us to maintain the system today while completing the technical and financial work that we need to do to have a meaningful long-term conversation about infrastructure replacement, rate design, and how the water fund is structured. The results of these studies would be coming back to council in the fall to help guide those discussions. This rate adjustment supports near-term stability while laying the groundwork for informed long-term discussions. So in no way is this the end of the discussion, but really the beginning of a much larger discussion. And with that, I'm very happy to answer any questions.
Are there questions or comments for Director Skibby or Director Thomas? Yes, Alderman Powers.
What percentage of our consumption is irrigation related, agriculture?
We can't say for sure, but it would be the higher users that are more irrigation. We definitely see quite an increase in water consumption in the summer, and a lot of that is irrigation.
And, it's obviously not captured. It finds its way to either Skokie or Lake Michigan and recycled that way. But, okay, just curious. Thanks.
Alderman Walther.
Thank you, Mayor. Katie or Mr. Thomas, just from a historical perspective, when did the water fund become an enterprise fund and become self-sustaining? That's the first question. And then secondarily, the debt service that we currently experience in the water fund, that is not counted against our self-imposed debt limit cap. Is that correct or incorrect?
It does not count against the cap. You are correct. We could issue debt beyond the debt cap because this is self-supported debt. It is not supported by property taxes. As far as when the water fund became an enterprise fund, it's my understanding that it's always been an enterprise fund, but I can look into that to see if I'm wrong.
Thank you.
And just for some additional context, in regards to the debt service question, which is not to preclude the council from taking any future action, but historically, as I understand it, debt service within the water fund has been used to finance one-off projects, water treatment plant improvements, booster stations, lift stations, things that require an investment very periodically, once every few decades. Things like water main replacement, which should be occurring on a more annual basis, traditionally have been funded on a more of a pay-as-you-go model. Think of it very similar in our capital fund to street resurfacing versus a police station project. So again, not to say that can't change in the future, but I think the model, as we would look to sustain it, ideally is funding that annual water main replacement in a manner that is not incurring regular interest costs, because that just erodes our purchasing power.
Thank you.
Others? Alderman Weber.
Thanks, Mayor. Thanks, Katie. I just wanted to comment that while, as a council member, we don't always want to see increased charges to the residents. However, I'm very proud of the fact that the city takes a proactive approach to looking at our infrastructure and being able to fund this in a very meaningful way. And that knowledge is power, so that the fact that we'll have these studies done to really understand where we are in the process, and then can set up a long-term plan that will be sustainable for the future.
And not to continue to jump in, but I think an analogy that I've used with the mayor, I know, in the finance chair, is in a lot of ways this is really akin to prior councils and mayors looking at our pension funding strategy and addressing long-term liabilities. Similarly to where we were with pensions a decade or so ago, we know, absent any future action, that this liability is looming and it will continue to grow. So I think part of, again, this entire exercise is to really evaluate proactively what can we do now, implement, really to just chart a course and change the trajectory, creating a longer glide path where we know we have time in order to make a more manageable and sustainable long-term solution to this, rather than waiting until the liabilities grow larger and future mayors and councils and ratepayers are left with more difficult decisions.
Other comments or questions? No? Okay. At this time, is there anybody from the public that would like to make a comment on this matter? Okay. Very well, thank you, Director Skibby. So at this time, I'd like to ask for first reading approval of the proposed ordinance. The consideration of an ordinance approving a fee schedule adjusting water rates for fiscal year 2027 as presented.
So moved.
Second.
This will be a roll call vote.
Alderman Clevin.
Aye.
Alderman Notes.
Aye.
Alderman Powers.
Aye.
Alderman LaVert.
Aye.
Alderman Weber.
Aye.
Alderman Walther.
Aye.
Alderman Novit.
Aye.
7 yeas, 0 nay, motion carries.
Very good. Thank you. The next item is new business, of which there is none this evening. At this time, are there any other additional items that the council members would like to discuss or comments they would like to make? Okay, hearing none, can I have a motion to adjourn? All in favor?
Aye.
Very good.